Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Can Startup Stories. This time we are celebrating Parent-preneurs, and this is one that we have wanted to do for a couple of years now, and we are so excited to finally bring you 5 dynamic, unique, diverse stories from entrepreneurs who are juggling that balance to do that best, the ups and downs, the trials and tribulations of entrepreneurship and parenthood. My name is Colin Weston. I am, as of a month ago, the former community leader for Startup Vancouver. Very exciting times because we have 2 new leaders who we're going to be introducing tonight. One is our host and MC for tonight. I'll introduce in a moment. And the other one is one of our 5 speakers. So, quick picture of me. I just wanted to show this because this is back 2 years ago. Remember when we used to go outside and we used to wear suits and dress up? Remember those days? Wow, I barely remember this. It seems like 200 years ago, but there we are. Maybe I'll get a suit on sometime soon. I even have a dressy collared shirt on today, which I feel kind of fancy. So yes, hopefully the suit will come out soon again when this COVID thing hopefully slows down even more over the next little while. So as we get started here, I did want to acknowledge that I am presenting and joining you this evening from the unceded traditional Coast Salish territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. Hopefully all of you acknowledged and participated in our first National Truth and Reconciliation Day last week on the 30th of September. And we all want to be actionable also. So I just want to have one takeaway, one thing that I'm doing now, and you can see here this course done by the University of Alberta. So I've signed up and I'm just going to start this. It's a free course. So if you want to learn more about the history of Indigenous peoples in this country and also where we are going with reconciliation, I highly recommend this course. I'm taking it. I will put the link in the chat later for everyone there. But yes, very impactful stuff. And I encourage you all to participate in this so we can all learn more. Startup Vancouver, if you're not aware of us, we are one of almost 40 chapters of Startup Canada across the country. And Startup Canada is the voice for the over 3.5 million entrepreneurs. And we are very active on social media. So whether it's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or our LinkedIn community page, that's where you can find us. And tonight we want to make this an interactive and engaging 2 hours of storytelling. So hey, if you're into the social media thing, if you want to do some live posting, I'm going to be doing some tonight. So please use the hashtag #CanStartupStories so we can then chart how many impressions we get. And hey, the more we amplify the signal, the more value it has for our 5 amazing speakers that are dedicating their time to share their stories with us tonight. We have 2 pillars, really kind of 2 kind of North Stars, if you will, with Startup Canada and also with Startup Vancouver. And the first one is to collaborate, not to compete. And a great example of this is my good friend, Paul Brassard, who I've known for about 5 years now, who is a managing partner at Volition. He's going to be sharing his story. And they do amazing work in the startup and innovation ecosystem. And one of the kind of the key things they do is with their pitch nights and their pitch events. And we've collaborated with them for years and look to collaborate even more in the future with them rather than us creating our own and competing with them. And that's what it's all about for us. And in that spirit of collaboration, we would not be able to bring you this event tonight without the support of our sponsor partners here tonight. So between Futurepreneur, Startup Fuel, SFU Venture Labs, who has been amazing over the last 3 years to present van startup stories in venue at SFU Venture Labs in Vancouver, and now with our virtual events. And this is the 9th one we've done since COVID was thrust upon us about 18 months ago, and they have been amazing. We have Vivian and Maverick who are joining us tonight as the executive producers of this show. So we are on good hands here tonight. And also I want to acknowledge with Startup Canada and the Startup Community Empowerment Fund that is powered by MasterCard, Sovereign Insurance, and UPS Canada. So thank you all for that. And the other piece of our why and what we do is to make entrepreneurship welcoming and inviting for everyone. So no matter gender, age, ethnicity, sexual orientation, tech or non-tech. We support everyone. And creating this Can Startup Stories speaker platform, it gives us this great opportunity to then showcase underrepresented communities, from LGBTQ entrepreneurs. We celebrated Black entrepreneurs 2 months ago. In November, we're going to be celebrating for the third year in a row Indigenous entrepreneurs. So please join us for that one. And also, we record these speaker series. So we always put each one of our speakers on our Startup Vancouver YouTube channel. So you can go back and view all of these talks there, and all the previous ones that we have done over the last couple of years. We want to make this 2 hours of interactive, engaging conversation. So anyone that's joining us today as an attendee, after each of our 5 speakers share their stories with us, which they get about 12 to 15 minutes each, there will be a Q&A that Chiara will be moderating as our MC, and we'll also be opening up the floor to questions from our audience. So please put those in the Q&A also if you have any questions for our speakers. And on that note, I did now want to introduce our MC for tonight. And Chiara Toselli is one of our community leaders that, there she is, that freshly minted. So her and Manuj Aggarwal, so the two of them are taking over the reins from me, and I am so proud and so honored to have them take Startup Vancouver to the next level and write the next chapters in this story that I've helped be part of for the first 4 years. So not to worry, not that you would, but I'm not going away. I'm still going to be helping them out as an advisor wherever they need some help. But otherwise, I am turning the keys over to them, and I'm going to turn the keys for this evening now over to Chiara. So Chiara, welcome, and take it away.
Thank you very much, Colin. And first off, thank you for all your work that you've done with Startup Vancouver. You've done a really amazing job. So hello to everyone. My name is Chiara, your MC and co-leader of Startup Vancouver. I want to give a warm welcome, first off, to all of our speakers, and a warm welcome to every single one of you in the audience tonight. So I am going to go ahead and kick off today with our first speaker, who is Amy. So I'll give a brief background on Amy. So Amy is a founder, author, speaker, event, and podcast host. She is the CEO of Mixing Babies and Business, which was voted as one of Canada's top 100 recovery projects by Future of Good in 2020. Now, Amy could not join us live today for the presentation, but we do have a really great video presentation of her entrepreneurial journey that she has sent in that we will be presenting.
Excuse me, could you please hold my baby while I load my pitch deck? Is there a change table in the washroom? May I borrow your chair so that I can nurse my child? These are all questions I've asked complete strangers since becoming a parent over 5 years ago. Hi, my name is Amy. I'm a writer and founder of Mixing Babies and Business, and I've been bringing my children into business settings with me since they were a few weeks old. They're now aged 5 and 3, and I'm 6 months pregnant, expecting our third kid sometime around Christmas. So as I was saying, I've been bringing them into business settings since they're a few weeks old, and this is not because I was told to or given permission, but because I never thought that I couldn't. As a freelance remote worker living overseas before becoming a parent, I was used to attending networking events solo and working from wherever. Once I became a parent, without family nearby or childcare that I felt that I could trust, I never thought twice about bringing my newborn with me everywhere, including into co-working spaces, startup accelerators, conferences, and even a job interview. When my first son was born, I signed up to a startup program for parents. From the time he was 7 weeks old until he was 4 months, I'd load up his diaper bag and my laptop in the stroller, and we'd take the train once a week across the city to the sessions. The only time I felt like I was learning how to balance as a parentpreneur was when I'd attempt to load him and his stroller from the platform onto the train safely, which I always ended up having to ask a stranger to assist me with. It's something I became more and more comfortable with over time, saying what I needed at the moment, asking for help, and learning how to receive it openly when it arrived. It was during these early months as a new parent that I also learned about how to complete a business model canvas, financing options for my business, and protecting my intellectual property. I also learned a lot by doing, as you'll see in these pictures. Did you know that you can attend a live workshop while changing your baby's diaper or feeding them if the moment calls for it? That you can pitch to potential investors or deliver a talk to a crowded room while baby wearing or rocking your child? That you can participate in a lunchtime meeting while breastfeeding, and others will offer to cut up your food so that you can eat too. If the building is accessible, you can wheel a stroller in and use it as a baby change table if the lack of facilities leaves you no other choice. That you can interview for a job with your toddler, spend half of the time trying to keep them away from all of the computer cords, and still get offered the role. Complete strangers will approach you to offer you their chair, grab you a coffee, or ask if there's anything that they can do to make you a bit more comfortable. I didn't know any of these things until I started entering business spaces with my kids. In articulating what I needed and learning how to question the way that things had traditionally been done, I became an accidental activist. For the most part, people agreed with me. I could and should bring my kids with me everywhere, but it wouldn't always be comfortable or easy. The tube stations would have stairs. We'd eat our breakfast at the early morning startup workshops that I would attend. They both would spit up at me on me during our meetings or pull at my hair while I was trying to do my elevator pitch. I've had to change my kids on floors, benches, sofas, tables, strollers, and the back of my car. We were never asked to leave. We just didn't always feel welcome. And I say we, but it was mainly me. I don't know how the kids felt because they were too little at the time. What started as an exercise in me validating a business idea gradually became more about the problems I was faced with most days as a parent-preneur. Why do parenthood and professional development feel like they have to be an either-or situation? Why does it seem like a special request to have a baby change area for families? Why are most in-person and virtual events planned during daycare, school drop-off, pickup, or bedtimes? How many people are we excluding when we don't address these questions? So I started to document my experiences with photos and blog posts, advocating for more inclusive corporate environments. I approached other parents at parks, libraries, and when I saw them at business events, I asked them how their own experiences had been to date. And you know what? They felt the same. The current programs and spaces aren't designed for them, so I decided to start creating my own. As a result, baby change tables have been installed in a local entrepreneurship space here in Ottawa. Parent-friendly professional development events have been hosted by me across the city, where I've set up these pop-up, you'll see in the middle photo, these pop-up children's play areas, and brought in guest speakers to host business workshops for parents. People have witnessed babies and toddlers crawling around play areas in these business incubator spaces, and the reaction has often been met with wide open gazes and disbelief, but then an acknowledgement of, hey, why didn't we have this before? Or why don't we have more of these kind of things? Audiences have seen that a guest speaker can still deliver a talk and sit on a panel alongside their baby and toddler, and the kids won't cry the entire time. So the far left photo is me presenting with my kids when they were not quite 3 and 1. And I'm happy to say they didn't cry the entire time. It didn't make strange. It went very well. Like most adults at networking events, kids just need some snacks. New connections have been made, Messages have been shared and received. We need to create more inclusive business spaces and experiences for parents. I've always shown up as I am alongside my kids, but I haven't always felt balanced. There are many things I've done which I wouldn't recommend, but at the time, I wasn't aware that I could make a different choice. I've planned events on too little sleep and looked after other parents when I probably should have taken more naps with my baby. I've driven away from a meeting, leaving my stroller parked on the sidewalk, and didn't realize it until I was across the city and unpacking my kid in his car seat at home. I've sat through a business conference and client meetings while having a miscarriage because I was on a deadline. And tonight, I'm not able to attend this session live because I'm having a difficult pregnancy. And unfortunately, I was too ill to do the talk live. But I find that I'm constantly learning, not so much about balance, but about how to honor my body, my own health and wellness, while also honoring my work commitments, while also honoring my parenting responsibilities and my needs as a parent. I've learned that you can keep showing up as you are in all of your parenting glory, but over the past few years, I've learned that the show doesn't always have to go on, or at least not as you thought it had to. While those are a few moments I can now reflect on a bit differently, I'm also proud of myself for achieving small changes for other parentpreneurs in the process. Since the pandemic has unfolded, these messages have been reverberating loud and clear. We need to support parents, their families, and the work that they do. There is no such thing as work-life balance. There are just tons of tiny choices we make to try to get through each and every day, doing the best we can as parents, employees, and entrepreneurs. I don't want to encourage you to seek out a balance which doesn't exist in the same way, shape, or form for every parent, because we are all unique with different family structures and individual needs. But we are all human, seeking connection, meaning, and possibly to make an impact while we're here. Don't self-reject, opt out, or exclude yourself from places because you think that you don't belong. Until public policy and private industry can meet the needs of people who want to pursue their professional goals alongside their families, it's up to you and I to create solutions, keep advocating for change, and showing up for ourselves and our kids as we are. I believe everyone deserves to design a life that works for them and their family. How can we make it easier to be more inclusive of parents in business settings? How can parents keep creating space for themselves and keep this conversation going? For those of you who are planning events or running a team, take time to consider the needs of people who are parents in your network. Are you asking people to trade their family time for early morning or late evening events or meetings, like this one held during the school pickup time, people's dinner time, or bedtime routine, depending on where you're joining us from Canada? Do you require all attendees in virtual meetings to turn their cameras and audios on? You could be putting others in an uncomfortable position if they're trying to simultaneously feed or look after kids at home. If you're back in the office and hosting in-person events, can your guests heat up baby food or formula? And do you have a private area or meeting room that's comfortable for nursing mothers to use if it's requested? Do you use accessible and gender-neutral washrooms? And if so, do they have signage and a baby change table? Flexible childcare is scarce, and offering it can improve participation amongst your event attendees and your guest speakers. Hopefully, by sharing these stories and suggestions with you today, it will encourage other parentpreneurs and businesses to continue testing them out. I've also created resources for parents navigating the corporate jungle with kids, including a newsletter, podcast, and events. You can visit mixingbabiesandbusiness.com to learn more. But for now, I just wanted to thank you for listening to part of my parenthood journey. and remind you that parenthood and professional development don't have to be mutually exclusive. Thanks for your time and for listening. Look after yourselves and keep showing up as you are.
Okay, that was a really great presentation. A lot of nuggets of wisdom in that presentation. I especially liked something that you had said, Amy, which was everyone deserves to design a life that works for them and their family. And I thought that was really, really powerful and something that resonates, I'm sure, with a lot of our speakers as well as a lot of our audience. So now it's time for a little bit of Q&A. Amy will be joining us live for a couple of questions here. So Amy, I invite you to turn on your mic and your camera. And anyone that would like to ask a question, feel free just to put it in the Q&A. Oh, hello, Amy. One thing that I wanted to ask you was, you did mention, there was that switch to the flexible workplace, obviously with the pandemic and all. So how has the flexible workplace changed, parent entrepreneurship and parents in the workplace in general?
So I've done remote work since about 2014, and the main difference I saw was people not having to add a disclaimer or ask for permission because everyone was in the same situation. So previously, you would have had to maybe feel like you had to have a reason to ask for a flexible work request or remote work request. And I did a presentation last year for parents about this and things that they could do to communicate better with their employer or their teams on what they need. And really, the main difference I've seen is people are getting more comfortable showing up as they are and not having to explain. You get on a call and you don't have to explain as much now. Sorry, my kids are screaming in the background, because everyone's in the same sort of position if they are a parent and they didn't have access to childcare or school.
Absolutely. I think there's definitely, an increase in parents and in moms in particular, maybe in the workplace and maybe going back into the workplace because of that flexibility and some of that remote work. So that's really great to see. So one other question I had here was, what would be one piece of advice to maybe parents who want to start their journey, but are maybe a little bit on edge with balancing work and life? What's one piece of advice you would like to give them?
So either starting their journey as parents or wanting to start their own business.
Both.
So I've had that kind of question before, and I'm afraid to answer from a parenting perspective, because you just never know what will happen. If you want to become a parent, go for it. You just, you can never predict what will happen though. But I really, maybe I was just stubborn or delusional, but I didn't really change a lot of things that I was doing when I became a parent. And joining that startup program really helped me. I met a lot of other parents who had, been a bit further along than me. I think we're definitely missing the village feel of other people helping each other out. And unfortunately, because we've been isolated now for a while, it's harder to create that or recreate that. So definitely try to create a network or join a network wherever you are. And if you see something advertised that you want to apply for, or, whether it's a funding opportunity or a program, but you feel like, oh, I don't know if I can make the session times, or I don't know if I meet the criteria, definitely reach out to the person who's running the program and schedule a conversation with them, or just show up like I did and don't ask for permission. But you just don't want to exclude yourself before other people have a chance to. So definitely don't apologize. And this is one of my kids coming in now.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, that was a great piece of advice. Show up authentically. Thank you so much. I think that's all the time we have for that. Thank you so much, Amy. I hope you feel better. Great.
Thanks.
So thanks, Amy. So before we end up going to our second speaker here, I would like to give a few minutes to one of our sponsor partners, Futurepreneur Canada. So Nikki, if you'd like to join us here, the mic is yours to say a few words. Okay, I'm not sure if Nikki, you're having problems joining us here.
Hey, it's Colin. Vivian with us. If you might need to give Nikki presenter status so she can turn on her mic and her camera. So Vivian, can you do that for Nikki, please, for Nicola?
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm not sure if there's another slide or if that was, there is another slide. Fantastic. Sorry for that. This was just a really quick story about a parent-preneur that came through. She has founded a company called Hunter Brown's Brown Butter. I'm not sure if anyone knows here is a foodie or knows of brown butter, but it's basically when you heat butter in a pan slowly to the point where you get little brown flecks in the butter. That's what brown butter is, and it really kind of elevates a lot of food, and a lot of restaurateurs use it, a lot of foodies use it. So Lana has actually created these products, brown butter cubes, that are all pre-packaged. You buy a pack of brown butter cubes, and they're a really simple way to kind of pop into dishes to really elevate your food. Brown butter can take some time to cook, so she's really pre-prepared this product and this brown butter. So if you're a foodie, I really encourage you to check it out. I'll also pop the link to her website in the chat box as well for you all to have a look. But she's a really great example of a parent-preneur that's come through Futurepreneurs programs. Her story is incredible. I'll also add a link to her page where she really explains that, the product, her brown butter product, came about as a bit of an accident, really. And it really came about because she was a mother and because she was cooking food for her son to enjoy. And it was kind of an accidental process of creating this brown butter and then packaging it as a cube. And that's really kind of what has catapulted her business to the next level. So wanted to just share that really quick story about Lana and her amazing business, Hunter's Brown Butter. But thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Nikki. I'm definitely going to check that out. That's an awesome example. So now I'm going to be introducing our second speaker, Manuj, who I've had the pleasure of talking and meeting even during the pandemic. So Manuj, he is an innovation evangelist and one of the leading AI experts globally. He has 4 patents in artificial intelligence and machine learning. He is a published author of 2 books on technology, and he is also the co-leader of Vancouver Startup Community with myself. Manuj runs a boutique big data and AI consulting company called TetraNoodle Technologies based in Canada. So Manuj, welcome. Go ahead and turn your mic and camera on, and I'm going to pass the reins on to you.
Thank you so much, Chiara. So excited to be here and co-leading the Vancouver startup community with you. So today, what I want to talk about is my experience of being an entrepreneur, especially being an entrepreneur in the last about 18 months with my kids being home and just interacting with them, just seeing how they look at me as I conduct my business and what I learn from them. So being an entrepreneur, in my opinion, the more I get into it, the more I learn about it. I feel it's more like a self-discovery journey. It's a journey to learn what you are good at, how much further you can push yourself. And it's all about people. It's about people inside your organization, your team members, your employees, and outside your organization, your customers, your vendors, partners. And I think there's a lot to be learned from kids, and one of my main concerns also is how to pass on this knowledge to my kids. So I'll talk about all this. So my story started in India. I grew up in India, and I come from a very humble background, and I used to work in a factory at 15 years of age, and it was pretty brutally hard work, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, and I used to get $2 a day for that. Now, at the time, I didn't realize it, but I mean, when you go through that experience, it's never pleasant. But then when I look upon my time during those days, I picked up a lot of qualities. I picked up a lot of good habits. I picked up a lot of things that really make a huge impact in my life today. So today, I work with some of the largest names in the world. But back then, I didn't realize the importance of hard work. When you get in the habit of working hard all the time, that habit stays with you. The habit of quality work, because when you work in a factory, you cannot make widgets which are one day of this specification, another day of that specification. Especially we used to manufacture industrial scale fasteners, so they hold bridges together, they hold heavy machinery together, so people's lives depend on it. So we had to comply with very strict specifications within micrometers and such. So that level of quality awareness, that again stays with you. And the things about scale, how do you scale a business, how do you communicate with people, these are all the things that can never be learned unless you put yourself out there in the real world and do these things. So as I was building my business, I realized that there are MBA programs, there are communities out there which help you to take the first steps about entrepreneurship. But when I look at it, engineers can try out their skills on smaller projects. Me coming from a software background, we can try things in an environment which will not break production environment. Doctors can practice on cadavers, and they have a resident a period where they can accompany other doctors. When it comes to entrepreneurship, it's a very lonely game, and there is not a lab where you can go and say, okay, let's test out my theories and let's figure out how I'm going to become an entrepreneur. So this is all practically learned. And one of the key things was, coming to this country as an immigrant, it's again another challenge to overcome, to learn the culture, to learn the environment, how the business works, what are the rules and regulations and things like that. So I really wanted to pass on this knowledge to my kids before they, whether they choose to become an entrepreneur or not, but the key skills about connecting with people and and having that ability to connect with people. And so as terrible as the pandemic has been, it allowed all of us to work in a different environment, especially alongside with the kids and the family. So one of the things that happened over this period was my kids, they were noticing me, how I conduct my business, and I was helping them more and more with their daily activities. So a few things that came out, which I wanted to share today, was key three things that I interacted with my kids over this. One was systems. So as we run our business, it's basically a series of repeatable systems. Scale. So if we are doing something, we need to scale it to a point where the business becomes sustainable. And communication. So as I said, people is all about other people, and so how do you communicate with them? So I'll share a few examples about this. So systems is basically, we all know we have anything from email to our calendar systems to larger systems, and I've been part of some really large global systems impacting millions of lives. But when I'm teaching my kids or they are doing a craft project, they get really irritated when things are not working out. We were doing some Lego games, and things were just not working out. And that's when I explained to them, did you see how we did that project? You were part of that. You were part of that conversation. We built these systems, and then we assigned specific tasks to people. Not everybody is good at everything. And did you see how it all worked out? When we put that experience of entrepreneurship in the context of the play or the activity that the kids are doing, it's really intriguing to see how they can really understand that concept and then apply it in their work, and then divide the work between themselves, between their friends and siblings, and then come up with a system for themselves that can accelerate their growth. And not only that, you can learn back from them as well as they apply the systems. I see that as adults, we are so ingrained with our way of doing things that we never realize there could be another way of achieving the same goal. And kids being blank slate, sometimes they surprise you. Sometimes they skip over 5 steps to accomplish a goal, and then you realize, oh, maybe I should do that in my business as well. I don't really need all these steps that I'm taking today to accomplish a goal. So that was a good example of just sort of exchanging ideas about systems. And then comes scale. What happened was, my older son, he for some reason had a fight with his friend, and they decided to not talk to each other. He was very upset about it for a long time. And then I was trying to talk to him. I was trying to see what can I do to help him feel better. And then he said that I don't have anybody to talk to, don't have anybody to play with. And I said, how many people have you tried to talk to? Maybe there are some other people who are like-minded and they can connect with you. And he said, I talked to 2 people and they didn't really show any interest and whatnot. So then I had to show him over the last 2 years the number of Zoom calls that I've had. It has been more than 500, 600 Zoom calls. And I told him, I had to do all these calls to find a handful of people that resonated with me, and then who rather, and vice versa. And we were able to do business together. So, in life, we think that finding people who are like-minded, finding customers, finding employees who fit the culture, it can be easy, but it's all a game of talking to each other, understanding their point of view, presenting your point of view, and then finding some sort of resonance between that. So when he saw that, he was like, wow, I mean, I'd never realized that that's how much work you have to do to build a business. And that was another learning that he took away. And then from him, I also took away the learning that sometimes we give up so soon. And just like I was explaining it to him that you shouldn't give up so soon in terms of finding a new friend for yourself. We as entrepreneurs should also stick to our guns, and then it's a matter of learning from our mistakes. It's a matter of keep going. And in many cases, I'm guilty of it myself. We give up on many projects. We give up on many things without actually following through on that. And then finally comes communications, where once again, they listen to me even when people are not making sense. When we are trying to present a solution to a customer, the customer may have had a bad day. I mean, we've had all these kind of conversations where the other person is not particularly polite or what have you, or not particularly reasonable, but yet you have to maintain your cool and you have to sort of maneuver the conversation so that you can understand the other person's point of view. And that level of communication and patience there is no way you can learn anywhere else but just by either observing somebody or being in that situation yourself. So again, when so I have two boys, and they are boys, as you know, like always fighting and full of energy. So now when they fight, I remind them, do you remember that conversation I was having with a client, with a prospect, and how did it go? So in order to turn that conversation around, rather than focusing on yourself, I had to focus on what they were going through. And so when you're fighting with your brother, maybe ask him, what is going on in his mind, how is he feeling, and maybe you will be able to connect better, and you will be able to understand each other better, and then enjoy this time together rather than fighting. So that has been, again, a really eye-opening experience to see how to teach kids about these big concepts like communication and empathy, and just getting other people's point of view. And again, I learn back from them as I give them these skills, how they use them and apply in their own way, while maintaining their own style, and while maintaining their own interests in that conversation. So these are some of the stories that I wanted to share, that I have experienced over the past 18 months with my kids being an entrepreneur. I think it's a very interesting journey. Entrepreneurship is a very interesting journey. It's a lot of fun, but at the end of the day, it's all about people, and passing on these skills, giving these skills to our kids will make them better human beings, regardless of whether they go into business or they go into any profession or anything like that. And so that's what I wanted to share with you. I hope you found it useful.
Thank you so much, Manuj, for Thank you so much, Manuj, for sharing your entrepreneurial journey. That was really great. One thing I really loved that you had mentioned was, learning from your kids. And I think that was very powerful. And as Amy said in her presentation, work-life balance doesn't exist, but I think work-life harmony does. And when you're learning from your kids and you're teaching them stuff that you have, that was really great, a great example of that work-life harmony. So I really like that. So I have a couple of questions here. So I know that you've been an entrepreneur for quite a long time. And as we know, as you said, it can be a very lonely journey for entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurs are also, glorified for working, those 12-hour days and really, really long days. What advice would you give to fellow entrepreneurs, parentpreneurs that are sort of burning that midnight oil? How can they prevent burnout?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, we need to find our passion. So that's why I said, I'll repeat that again. Entrepreneurship is a journey for self-discovery. And what I mean by that is you really need to find your passion. So Amy, previously mentioned that she was she was validating another product, and through her experience, she found the current ventures that she's involved in, and that became her passion. So the point is that if you're living your passion, then burning midnight oil becomes a hobby. We all have hobbies where, we can't spend enough time on it. Like we just get glued to it. And if you are living your passion, whether the results are coming in or not coming in, you just enjoy it. And if you just follow the path of, hey, I saw this person become so successful, so I'm going to follow that path just because I want to be successful, then it becomes a chore, then becomes a drag on life if things are not working out and you have to put in extra time. So I always recommend, find yourself first, find your passion first, and then that will align everything down the road.
Yeah, definitely. And along those lines, finding your passion. I know that you kind of mentioned your journey here, but how did you get into what you're doing right now, which is sort of the AI and data? How did you find that passion?
Well, I mean, so I've been in technology for a long time, and that again is a huge, long story. Going from factory and sort of, just something clicked in my mind that I wanted to do something new with my life. And somehow I got myself a very modest education in computers, and I just fell in love with programming, and I was programming for days at end. And that's what got me into computers. When I came over to Canada, dot-com boom was happening, and a lot of series of events happened, which led me to start a consulting company. And then towards 2010 or so, I had another upheaval in my personal life, which led me into meditation. So learning a little bit about our mind, our psychology, and then artificial intelligence it was already happening. Like, I was involved in multiple projects, but the experience about the meditation and learning about the mind gave me an insight about the continuum between how our mind thinks and artificial intelligence, and how impactful that combination is. And we see the impact of that, although in a more sort of sensationalized manner, in a more negative manner, looking at Facebook, looking at social media giants, where they are sort of enhancing the insecurities and the negative tendencies in the world. But the same exact process we use it in reverse. So bringing out the positive, unlocking people's potential, helping companies grow, gain traction. So that's sort of the story about how I fell so passionately into artificial intelligence.
Yeah, really fascinating. And I just have one last question here. I think we only have one last question here. What do you think is the most rewarding part about your entrepreneurship journey, or entrepreneurship in general?
Yeah, I mean, making an impact on others is hugely satisfying. We can all sort of say, having the independence and having the financial independence, location independence. These are all great perks of being an entrepreneur. But then again, business is all about serving customers, and when the customers feel that impact and their business changes or their life changes, that is the most satisfying thing, and that sort of gives us the energy and the motivation to keep going and impact more and more people.
Perfect. Well, that's all the time we have. Thank you so much, Manuj, for sharing your journey. Yeah, thank you so much. Great. So before I introduce the third speaker here, I would like to invite Forrest from Startup Fuel to say a few words. So go ahead, Forrest.
Can you see me? Can you hear me? Oh, there I go. Hey, how is everybody? Thank you so much for having me. I'm really inspired. I'm a parent entrepreneur myself. I have a 3-year-old daughter. And it's just a great reminder that we are not necessarily all on our own, and that there's it's a difficult journey, but a very rewarding one. I am coming from Startup Fuel, and essentially what we do with Startup Fuel is we are kind of trying to decentralize Silicon Valley, which is a really, really big lift, but something that we think is really meaningful because it dismantles some of the systemic inequities that exist in the startup ecosystem, and notably geographic limitations. And so what we're trying to do is bring a space where every entrepreneur has access to the things they need, whether that's resources, whether that's investors. We are already populating angels, we're populating angel groups, we're populating VCs into the platform, and we're seeing great interactions there. And we have a ton of work ahead of us, but we're really excited about it. And it's very rewarding work to try to create a ecosystem that's more inclusive and creates more options. And ultimately, we are not that far off. We're going to be doing a Canadian equity crowd fund, which we're really excited about. We kind of want to walk the walk. And part of that is also creating investor access into early products, which for me personally is something that I believe is a really important aspect to bridging some of the wealth gap that we've seen. And so we're trying to live our own truth here. And we'd really appreciate it if you checked out Startup Fuel. I love what you guys are up to here with Startup Vancouver and what you guys are working on. Like this messaging has been phenomenal, but we'd love to have you join our ecosystem. It's really easy. So come to startupfuel.com. If you're an investor, check out, we have a tool just for you called our pitch box, which kind of gives you a back end look into companies that you can flow through. So thank you all for the time. I won't take any more. I have really loved this conversation. So thank you for letting me give my 2-minute pitch.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Forrest. So now I'm going to be introducing our third speaker, who is Paul. And Paul is the managing partner of Volition. He is a 20-year veteran of entrepreneurship and has immense experience in business development, fundraising, scaling and marketing strategy, and is a master pitch and presentation coach. And so with that, Paul, the mic is yours. Looking forward to hearing about your journey.
Here we go. I think that worked. Okay, so good day, everybody. So as was mentioned, I am a managing partner, and I guess I'll look at the camera. Actually, I'll move it. That's better. So I am a managing partner and co-founder of Volition. Many people kind of know me for that. And it's this slide is actually not meant for me to do an advertisement for my businesses. There's actually a reason for this. So I am a 20-year entrepreneur with about 15 years of pitching and fundraising experience. The main thing is that I'm a 20-year entrepreneur. I'm also the co-founder and CEO of a company called Straws and Stuff, and also the COO and co-founder of a company called Bucky Technologies, and an instructor at 3 schools, which you can actually see right now. I'm in, well, you might be able to see right now that I'm in class, because I'm starting class actually in about 10 minutes. So that's pretty cool. However, I'm also the father of 3 boys. I have Nathan here on the left. That's my youngest at 8. I have Brendan, who's in the middle there at 12 years old as of last month, and Noah on the far right side, who's 10 years old. And like me, they love ice cream. So that's us in White Rock earlier this year. Now, all that to say that obviously, if it's not clear, like all of us, I'm sure, I'm very busy, a lot going on. But I want to talk a little bit about, I know we're talking today about parent-preneurship and a little bit on the tips, but I wanted to just kind of give a view on a little bit of before parent-preneurship, as it were, for me. And the reason that's relevant is because the tips I want to share are things that I'm hoping that I can impart as tips for future entrepreneurs or people who are thinking about getting into it or are just starting in their journey. And what I want to say is that before I became a parent, unfortunately, I started down the path of, like many, that didn't really take care of themselves. I was notoriously famous, still am technically, notoriously famous for staying up really late. And I just lost my screen, so I'm going to switch it here. Sorry. Okay, so I was notorious for staying up really late and working really long hours and working on way too much at any given time. And so that ultimately resulted in 2015, I was diagnosed with severe sleep apnea, which most people don't really know. I don't go around talking about it. And this isn't meant to be a sob story or anything like that. But I found out because I almost crashed my car going up the cut in North Van. Because I fell asleep at the wheel, and I was too stubborn to do anything about it beforehand and didn't realize that I had an issue. So once I went in and I discovered this, I was able to start making some changes, but I didn't really make a lot of changes. It really started coming into fruition. I'm just going to plug in my home headphones as I'm talking here, as my students, of course, are starting to come in. But once I started doing that, I started having to make some changes. And now I'm hoping that you guys can still hear me. Maybe somebody can give me a sign that they can still hear me. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so now this feels like a long time ago, especially with COVID coming into play. And so since then, I sacrificed or even in the olden days, I would constantly sacrifice my mental health, my physical health, and that all took a toll up to a point that I unfortunately almost died from it. And so after that scare, I really looked to find a way to make some changes. So in 2015, I sold the business I was in at the time. I looked for ways to decrease the amount of work I was doing, and just make some significant changes in my life. And I also made some promises because at that time, now I was a parent. And it really came to light that if I wanted to be around for a long time with my kids, I needed to make some changes. And so where I'm going with this is that I'm going to give you some tips at the very end. Obviously, what I'm going to say is, as cool as the work is that I do, I love the work I do between Volition, Straws and Stuff, Bucky, and getting to work with entrepreneurs all the time, and getting to work in the community and now the global startup community. That being said, I would encourage everybody to make sure that they do find that time, and make sure that they find time for themselves, and to keep that wellness in mind. So I have talked about this before with other people, and they often say to me, a question I get quite often is, well, Paul, how do you manage it all? How do you do it all? How do you make it all work with all these different things that you're doing? And so a lot of people talk about work-life balance, but for me, I've never really found that. And I am a self-admitted workaholic. I got it from my mom and my dad. It's part of who I am. I grew up in a poor family, so I had to work at a very young age in order for me to. The reasoning was actually that I didn't want my mom to have to worry about me, and I wanted to pay my own way. So I started working at a very young age, and that was also though where some bad habits started getting developed. So instead of work-life balance, what I've really found over the years is better for me is work-life integration. And I actually really like what Manuj said, in part of, when you are passionate about what you do, it almost comes like a hobby. You actually don't want to sleep because you want to get things done. You want to do stuff. And even now, like, I find myself staying up late because I'm working on Bucky, which is in the NFT cryptocurrency space. And we're building a game around space exploration. And it's so cool. I don't want to stop working on it. Straws and Stuff, we're replacing products that restaurants and cafes are using with fully biodegradable from nature back to nature products, which again, really hits my passion because that's our future we're talking about. It's also my kids' future. And so these things are really resonating with me, which really kind of has brought me back to the whole, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, which I've really become an avid believer of. And so I've really looked for ways to do work-life integration and find ways of making that work for me. And so one of the things that I've personally unlocked in my world is finding the right people. I think is a real key to that success of helping me do the things I want to do. So with the right people, we have a joke at my office that my job is to find ways of sleeping under my desk. Now, anybody who really knows me knows that that's not what I'm actually doing. But the reason it's a running joke is because my job is really to find the right team members and support them so that they can succeed. And the more that they succeed, the more we ultimately succeed as well. And so it's been something I've been really concentrating, honestly, actually just over the last year and a bit, especially since the advent of Straws and Stuff and Bucky and Volition continuing to grow and taking on more teaching, although I just recently cut back some of my teaching as a result, but really doing more of the things that I love and simplifying. It may not seem like I'm simplifying, but I really have tried to simplify the things I'm doing as much as I can. And then the harder, more complex stuff is from people who are better at it than I am. And so that's probably not really mind-blowing, but it's definitely something I can say has really worked for me, and really kind of reminds me of something that I've taught to my class and something that I say all the time. It was one of the first lessons my uncle taught me in business, although maybe it was dating advice, I'm not sure. But he always said, when in doubt, KISS, which is keep it stupid simple. And I know we've probably all heard that concept before, but now that I'm 40 and working my tail off and heading towards retirement, I know it's weird for me to talk about that, but I'm really trying to find ways of simplifying as much as I can. And so that helps me to do my work-life integration and find ways, making sure that I'm scheduling in time for the family, making sure that I'm communicating with my family and that I'm up on what needs to be done and where I need to be involved, and making sure I'm getting involved, making sure that the weekend is the space where I'm not working as little as possible, where that's their time. And taking that time with them, which actually it's been alluded to, I think, from Manuj, even in the sense of COVID, of like making sure that we have that time, and it's almost been thrust upon us because I'm home with the kids and the cats at some points, especially last year. And so really getting more of that time with them and making sure that I'm spending more time. So in the previous slide, it's sort of like, this is what people really kind of think it looks like, or what it's supposed to look like. But what I've really found is that it's really kind of like a high wire act. It is a balancing act. You have to find a way to kind of make it work. And ultimately, what I have to say is, for me, people ask me how I do it. For me, I really try to find ways of compartmentalizing. So making sure that I separate these things and put them in compartments, and so I can switch easily from one thing to the next. But I'm not saying that it's necessarily the best way, and I don't necessarily recommend it. What I'm saying is it works for me. And so I'm suggesting to all of you is to find a way that works for you. What is your balance? What does that look like? Ultimately, keeping it simple and making sure you make that time for yourself, for your own wellness and health. Recently, I took on a wellness journey with my wife, and I've now lost 33 pounds in the last 3 months, and it's amazing. I'm actually taking that time for myself, and it's about time. And so I don't want you to wait until you're 40 like me. Do it sooner than later. And I'm just going to tail off with, speaking of parents, I just wanted to build some awareness, as my son Noah has a condition called PANDAS, and this has been one of the hardest parts, is seeing him go through these challenges, which is a relatively new thing that's been discovered, and it's brought on through initially strep throat and then autoimmune challenges. And so it's relatively new. There's only one doctor in Vancouver that really practices it, and it's been really challenging. I have to give a lot of credit to my wife because she has been amazing. So a bit of awareness there, but find that balance, make it work for you, and that's my story.
Perfect. Oop. There we go. Thank you so much, Paul, for sharing your journey. I really liked, oh, I don't think you can hear me.
I can't hear you. I'm sorry. Hold on.
Can you hear?
Okay,
no worries.
Okay. Hey, all. Could I? Go ahead. Sorry.
Perfect. Okay, I'll make this quick. So I really loved what you had said about work-life integration. I think that was really great. The compartmentalization, which works for you, is I think once again, it's not going to be a one-size-fits-all. People are going to have to figure out what works for them. So I really liked that point that you had brought up. One question that I had was, what's one thing that parenting has taught you that you think manifests in entrepreneurship? Really, I think patience, for me, not having kids, patience is one thing that I think that parent-preneurs probably do really well with. But yeah, anything else there?
You kind of took it. I think patience is definitely one of them. And I have to give credit to Manuj because he said it really well too, which was, one of the things that's been happening for me recently is working from home and having, at least my oldest son is the one who seems to have a sparked interest in kind of what I'm doing. And it's interesting because I'm getting to hear and see it from his eyes. So he'll kind of like, any of us who are parents will know that our kids are listening more than we realize they are. And so it's interesting because even though I think he's like not listening at all, he's not paying attention, playing video games or watching YouTube or whatever, and then he'll be like, oh, I heard you talk about that thing that's really interesting. And what if you were to like to do that or do this? And I'd be like, oh, I never even thought of that. And so keeping an open mind, patience is definitely a virtue, especially when you have a son with mental challenges, as I do. You know, and really, you know, reminding yourself of the key things like perseverance, and reminding them that they need to persevere. I mean, Manuj also alluded to that. So yeah, a lot of those things. Patience for sure. Absolutely.
Perfect. Yeah, great. That was really fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your journey. Good luck with your class. Thank you for being here. Perfect. So now we're, thank you. So now we're going to move on to our fourth speaker, and that is Anna. So I'm going to give a quick bio here. So Anna is an award-winning 3-time founder, Forbes contributor and business council member, activator at SheEO, and early stage investor who is building transformational programs with her startup Total Mom. The network is supporting over 20,000 women and is becoming Canada's fastest growing business community and digital network for moms, offering services, products, and programs, including a national startup pitch competition, and business conference. So with that, Anna, I'll invite you to turn on your mic and turn on your camera, and please take it away.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. I hope you guys are having a really great night. It is about 8 p.m. here where I am in Blue Mountain, Ontario. And I'm really honored to speak to you guys today. It's been the craziest year for me. I would say my biggest year in my entire career, in my entrepreneurship journey. So I felt it would be kind of cool to share a little bit about my life, my background, and kind of how I ended up getting to this place. Because a lot of people do ask me how I got here, where am I coming from, how do I do it with my kids? So today I'm going to be talking about living the total mom life, how becoming a mom has shaped me into a successful entrepreneur. So becoming an entrepreneur or a businesswoman was never in the cards that I knew about. I actually didn't grow up seeing many women business owners or women in leadership. So for me, I just had these different ideas of where I was going to go. And this is why I feel it's so important to empower and inspire young women and young girls. I never had any business training. I didn't go to school for business. And now I'm just, doing it all with these kids, and it's been amazing. And I'm definitely getting to consult a lot of really big organizations. And so this always kind of goes back to like, how did you get here? What did you do? So my first business idea, Total Mom, actually happened the night I came home from a baby show. It was my first time being a mom. I had come home, I dumped all my stuff on the ground, and it was all baby stuff. And that was when the light bulb clicked, and I had realized that none of that stuff was for me at all. And I had been experiencing so many hardships at that moment. I wasn't sure how I was going to eat right again. I didn't know what a naturopath was at the time. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I was so used to like just going. So I found my spark in this despair, so to speak. So I didn't know how to run a business. I didn't know anything about how to start it, but I went for it. Like I went hard. So today I'm in Forbes. I'm an investor, award-winning entrepreneur. Lots of blood, sweat, and tears here going on, but parenting and running a business is no joke. And I'm sure most of you know that. I also run a creative agency with my husband, and the firm really helps brands and companies of all sizes. And it's really important that when I work with small brands and businesses that I really understand what impact they're trying to leave in this world. Aside from running Total Mom Inc. and my creative agency, I'm also the vice president of Bridging the Gap Ventures, which is a global organization that works with youth all over the world. One of our main priorities right now is working to help youth with their sustainable development goals. And so I work with some of the top leaders, celebrities, and bringing those voices to light. So I really think that a lot of what the speakers were saying tonight about supporting youth, it's so important for us as parents to do. So this is the face of a woman who's building an empire. I remember this moment. This was when I shot my Forbes photo shoot, a dream of mine. Like I still don't even know how that even happened. But before all of this glitz and glamour, I actually had a pretty rough upbringing. I immigrated to Canada after living in 2 war-torn countries. Our refugee and immigration story is quite hard to tell. So I don't think I'm quite ready for that today, but my cultural experiences, my background in psychology, has really given me a unique lens. And it is why I'm fueled by impact and just really being able to create these entrepreneurial kind of gigs to help make a difference in this world. This is something that fuels me every single morning. And I think is important in entrepreneurship, is like never giving up and following what in your gut you just want to fix, that problem you want to fix. So like many women before me, I found empowerment in the face of adversity. And today I really want to talk a little bit about what becoming a mom has taught me, and how it's actually been the secret of how I am a successful entrepreneur today. So there's my mom, my 2 brothers, and myself here in, I think we were in Israel here at the time. I was actually born in the USSR, and I wanted to be a pop singer my whole life. My dad got me this karaoke machine when I was 3, and I was like singing Achy Breaky Heart on repeat. I was like, I had all the posters, just you name it. I was like destined. I was like, watch out, Britney and Christina, like I'm going to be the next pop star. And I actually never considered that to be a real career or job, because teachers don't actually necessarily say, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? A pop star? So it was like doctor, lawyer, this and that. So at the time growing up, I never really followed that deep gut feeling, but I made it happen, you guys. This is me, actually. This is me on a stage for 20,000 people, sold out. This is my album that was considered for a Juno. This is me next to some of the biggest stars that you know. And I was on my way to commercial stardom in the US. And it's still hard to look at this and say that's me, but it was something that I went hard for. And before I go into how that even happened, I want to tell you how this all came to be. So I found myself on the fork in the road. I was in my 5th year of psychology. I was told by my fiance at the time that we were done via text message, and I was flipping crushed. I was heartbroken. It put me into a deep depression. I failed out of school that year. And I didn't know what to believe anymore. I didn't even know. It like really rattled my soul. Like, how can someone lie to me like that? You know, it really was hard. And in that moment, I just felt like things couldn't get any lower. So why don't I just go for it? Like, maybe I'll just like be a pop star. Maybe I could try it. And this like deep thing deep inside of me said, if you do this, you got to do this. Like, I'm sure so many people listening right now know that feeling, like I'm not going to fail at this. And so what happened next was I went for it. I got in front of every manager, every record label. I started my own record label. I got signed. I ended up on Disney. I ended up on Family Channel, and I didn't stop. And my mind was like, there is nothing that is going to stop me. I'm never going to be in this shitty situation. You know, I had a really rough upbringing. I had lost this guy. I was just like, never going to this place again. And so all of this was happening. I was on my way to sign a major record deal in the US, and then I got pregnant. And this is my journey of becoming a mom. I became a mom. My husband and I, my new husband, well, my actual husband, at the time we had just met, and we had been dating for quite a few years. And, you know, he was on this journey with me to get signed, and we found out we were having a baby. And so in that moment, I was like, holy cow, like this isn't happening anymore. And like the contract ripped down the middle, you know, that whole thing, like who's going to hire a pop singer with a big belly, you know, and start her stardom record deal. So the truth is, I didn't ever like think, oh, I want to be a mom. I wasn't like planning for it. I knew I wanted to be a mom one day, but it wasn't kind of something I was like working towards. So I was just focusing on like one chapter at a time. And I didn't think I was going to be anything other than an entertainer. So becoming a mom was so exciting. I mean, I went down this wellness journey. I rediscovered myself. I started looking into better for you products. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I still to this day do not regret anything at all. Like, it was an eye-opening experience and a soul-rattling experience for me. And so today I'm a very successful entrepreneur, yes, and I'm learning and I'm growing, and I still have a long way to go, and I'm always learning every single day. But how did becoming a mom actually get me here? That's what I want to talk to you guys about today. So becoming a parent actually prepares you for the roller coaster of entrepreneurship. It prepares you for all of it. So the emotional, the physical, the psychological experience of being a parent and a mom are what got me through my first company's success. And I really want to go through some of the humps and hurdles that you might see as a new mom or as a parent, and how that relates to what you can learn and kind of get through all of this journey of running, growing, and scaling businesses. So 7 ways to becoming a mom, 7 ways becoming a mom can prepare you for running a business. So the fear of labor. So this was a huge one for me. Starting or launching a business is super scary. It's just like the thought of my labor, like how it can go wrong. Am I going to get a C-section? You just start worrying about these things. And so entrepreneurship requires a positive mindset, and it allows you to attract what you want, but you just can't be in the lack of mentality. And so it's said across a lot of cultures that reducing fear reduces pain, and it also reduces stress. So during your entrepreneurship journey, try to let go of the fear and just go for it. You can open up so many doors to new possibilities. Letting go of control was a huge one. So when we go into labor and when we become a parent, it can be super scary. We want to control the situation. We want an outcome. So Brandon says it's so scary. He was there. It was just insane. And so enabling this trust in yourself, in your body, in the fact that your body's going to do what it's going to do, allows you to let it happen. And so this can trickle into your leadership style by trusting in your employees, trusting in your contractors, trusting in your team, and trusting in yourself. I have really had to make peace with the unknown. And as you guys know, entrepreneurship is the unknown, and you never know what's going to go up and what's going to go down. So parenting, pregnancy, labor, all of this are a reminder that you're never in full control. But I have really had to harness the strength from within to get through this labor situation. And that's the same for business. So it's really tough, but try to not be too control freak if you can. So it's not the destination, it's the journey. I'm sure you've all heard this, although, many women may oppose that it's not the destination midway to labor. I know you guys know. We just want to get that part done, but it really is a journey. It is such a beautiful journey where you get to meet incredible people, learn so much about yourself, learn how to make impact in this world. And entrepreneurship is one of those things where it's the only job in the world where you can truly make such a massive global impact. And that's what really struck me with the possibility of being my own business owner and, using my talents and skills. So really, really cool. Trust in ourselves. So when I had both of my babies on the couch at my house with my husband, I was so scared to push. And I remember my midwife saying, if you let go of this fear, your baby will come out. And sure enough, when I got to that point, I just went over the edge and I'm like, let's do this, baby. Let's get this baby out. And he came out. And so trust is such an important element of your business journey. You really need to trust that you are going to come out on the other side of things, so to speak. And so when we trust in our abilities and we let go of that control together, finding that deep power that we all have and not overthinking and resisting and staying in our lane, the sky is the limit. So creating a support system is super key. As parents know, as moms know, it takes a village to do anything. And so that's the same with a business. If you're going to grow a network, you're going to grow a community, you're going to grow any of this, you've got to be good to people, and people have got to be good to you. And we got to learn how to support one another, really stand for each other's transformation and each other's impact journeys. So one of the things that I think is really important is do not sit there and work till the midnight oil burns alone. Ask for help, ask for support, especially women. We tend to sometimes forget to ask for it. We have so much to prove and it is so difficult, but we're all here, startups here, everybody's here. There's so many networks for you to join. So reach out to nonprofits, organizations, and start joining communities. You can't do this alone. So the other thing is always be open to evolving. So the evolution and transformation of motherhood, parenthood, and becoming an entrepreneur incredible. It's one of the coolest metamorphosis experiences that I've ever had in my life. And as I stepped into motherhood, I really began to realize that not only was I growing into this incredible woman that was making a difference in the world, but I was evolving into a person that realized that I'm not perfect, and that the problem that I'm trying to solve is just the beginning and the tip of the iceberg. And sometimes we want our old life before we became parents. And sometimes that can get us down and we can think, oh crap, I wish I had more space and time. But just remember that, you know, as you're evolving, this new you, this new person is so powerful and so important. And it just, you know, I just really resonated with what Manuj said earlier. Just really be in that moment, be in that present moment. And this goes back to it being a journey. It's not about doing it all. So similar to what Amy said earlier, we don't need to do it all. We don't have to do it all. And don't put the pressure on yourself to do it. If you're a founder and a CEO that's listening, you're likely one of those people that is running most of the divisions in your company. And so please outsource and be resourceful and look into different things that, you know, could really help you. You know, I first started calling upon my partner, then my family, then I finally got a nanny, and I just invested in that support system. And sometimes it feels like you don't have the money to invest at the time, but I promise you the time that you will get back when you do invest in more team members, even if it's just a little bit at a time, is just going to move mountains for what you can achieve. So what has becoming a mom opened up for me? Quite a lot. You know, there's a bunch of bumps ahead that are part of the road to success. But as you go through your journey of parenting, of entrepreneurship, you will continue to be presented with these reminders and these realities and these opportunities, these golden nuggets to create the space for you to expand and surrender. So entrepreneurship is a personal journey. It is a growth. It is so much more than running a company and being a leader and having money and all of that stuff. It is something that is on your path, that the universe, that God, that everybody has put in front of you to just go through that transformation journey. So personally, I felt like surrendering is a really cool thing. Letting go of control is a really cool thing. And trying to just move through emotions and just move through the things. It's gonna go the way that it's gonna go. And so it's a profound experience if you choose to look at it that way. It'll really force you to face the fact that we can't control the things around us always. And it really allows us to be mindful people. It allows us to grow and expand. And it allows us to learn patience and learn kindness and learn leadership skills and emotional intelligence and all of that. Like you just start learning that other people are important. It's not just about you. It's not just about your business. It's about the person that you are and the people that you're touching in this world. So I hope that you guys see it like that. I mean, I'm going to leave you with 3 little tips again as a reminder. Connect with mentors, connect with seasoned mentors. They're out there, they're waiting for you. Ask for support, take lots of breaks. 1 hour break can move mountains. Like I said, sometimes you just got to stop and not do anything. You need to have that energy and you need to have that source energy to like actually get back into the swing of things and do what you love. If you are struggling, it's your 4th year, 5th year, 2nd year, and you're just not happy, try something new. Failure is not the end. Entrepreneurship is a series of overly glamorized failures that create the space for growth. Whoever told you entrepreneurship is lattes and a Wi-Fi was lying, I promise you. So I hope you guys learned a little bit from some of the correlations that I was putting together between, you know, having kids, being a mom, being a parent, giving birth, and just a little bit more about Total Mom. My organization is, we are a social enterprise. We are a media company. We started out as Canada's largest holistic festival called the Total Mom Show. And now we have a reach of 24 million and growing. And we help so many parents across Canada grow and scale their businesses. But most importantly, get connected with organizations like Startup Canada and so many more. So I hope you guys have a beautiful time. Reach out to me if you want to be a part of any of the programs, events, or community, and take a screenshot of this. You know, connect with me if you ever need to. I'm always here to help, and I love engaging with different new people. And I hope I can help you in some way along your journey. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Anna. That was really, really great. I really loved how you said that being a mom, slash a parent is your superpower, because I think that can be, a limiting belief for a lot of entrepreneurs who are parents, that maybe they don't have enough time. So I really appreciated that. Another thing that I thought was really interesting and a good reminder is that, career paths, they're not linear. Same with entrepreneurship. It's not just A to B. It's not a linear line. It's not straight. There's going to be ups and downs. There might be loops before you actually get there, but it's about the journey and always learning and trusting yourself. And then the last thing I thought that was really great was what you had said, which is, you can do anything, but you cannot do everything. So you have to find those mentors, find that community. So can you just briefly talk, I know one of the tips you said, was find those mentors. Can you talk, about the importance of mentorship, and if there's a parent entrepreneur or even an entrepreneur in our audience, like how do they go about finding those people and finding a good match?
I mean, Google is always a great place to start finding, depending on where you're living in Canada, just starting to Google entrepreneurs, startup, pitch competition, nonprofit organizations, things like that, starting there and kind of going out the spider web. Mentors are a great thing because as entrepreneurs, we sometimes hold on to the suitcase, it's our business, and we just like hold on to it. And we think we're on the right path. We think that idea is the idea. And we need to expand our mind and see things from other lenses and see things from other people's mindsets and experiences. And I think what's important is, as entrepreneurs, it's fun to kind of learn all these things. It's part of the journey to learn, but sometimes you can get there so much faster with a seasoned mentor. And you can find mentors through lots of different organizations. Startup Canada has a great mentorship program. Total Mom Inc. has an incredible mentorship program through Canada's Total Mom Pitch, which kicks off in January. And just LinkedIn, like connect with people on LinkedIn, and usually people will say they're a mentor, and they'll be a part of mentorship programs.
Perfect. Yeah, that was great. And just a reminder for any people in the audience, please go ahead and put your questions in the chat there. The last thing I wanted to ask was, I have asked this to one of our speakers, but what is the most rewarding part about entrepreneurship for you?
Oh man. I think it's, like I said earlier, is seeing the kind of difference that I'm able to make, the people that I get to talk to, especially like, for example, through Bridging the Gap Ventures. I mean, the other day we were on a Clubhouse chat with like Richard Branson's people and the people who are solving things in outer space and in the oceans and just the UN. And I would never, ever get this opportunity if I was sitting in an office working for, a firm or I don't know, just something else. Like, I get to explore all the horizons of my talents and skills and my interests and passions. And I get to turn it into anything I want. I essentially can turn anything I love into a product or a service or an experience while doing something good for other people in the world. So I just love that you can just do anything with it, really.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. Great story, Anna. Really appreciate your time here.
Okay, bye.
Perfect. Bye. Great. So before I introduce our final speaker for this evening, I would like to invite Naina from Startup Canada to say a few words. So go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Good evening, good night from wherever you are in Canada. So I am Naina. I'm the Entrepreneur Success Manager here at Startup Canada. Startup Canada is the gateway to Canada's entrepreneurial ecosystem. I was hearing a lot that entrepreneurship is a lonely journey. Sometimes it's very challenging. You need support. And Startup Canada is here to connect you with other entrepreneurs, other support organizations, as well as other service providers. We are here to connect you with support, community, and tools to build successful businesses in Canada. Whether you're starting up or you're scaling up, we have something for everyone. Since Startup Communities launched in May of 2013, Startup Canada's team has worked with nation's most dedicated community builders like Colin, Chiara, and Manuj to create a platform that helps entrepreneurs and make cities and towns more entrepreneurial, more collaborative from coast to coast to coast. If you are an entrepreneur Or if you're passionate about entrepreneurship and you see there's a gap in your community and you need more support, reach out to me. I'll leave my email in the chat box, and we can have a chat in how we can collaborate more and discuss more opportunities for startups. I also wanted to share a little bit about Community Empowerment Fund. This was started this year in 2021 to support entrepreneurs in the underrepresented groups. Every year in January, we do a census and we ask entrepreneurs from coast to coast about their feedback, about the challenges they face in terms of entrepreneurship. This year, 66% of the respondents belong to represented groups. They felt there wasn't enough support in their, in the groups that they belong to. And we have to curb that. We have to fix that number. So this is why we have created this opportunity. We've seen that corporate organizations, as Amy said, companies are not very inclusive towards parent entrepreneurs or parent employees as well. So we have to curb that, and I'm really grateful to Startup Vancouver for organizing this event and carrying this dialogue forward. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Naina. So now I am going to go ahead and introduce our final speaker, Humaira. So Humaira is the founder and CEO of Locelle Digital, and Locelle is a global private platform created for women in the workplace based in British Columbia. Locelle delivers personal and professional growth to our community through relevant, meaningful connections and professional development opportunities. And with that, I will give the mic to you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. It's been such a great evening just listening to incredible speakers with their personal stories and professional journeys. And I feel so energized and just happy to be an entrepreneur. So I don't necessarily have a presentation, but I thought I would share my journey as an entrepreneur, but also along the way, the lessons that I've learned and one of the key takeaways that I've had that I would love to share with you. So I was born and raised in Pakistan, in Karachi, Pakistan. My family decided to move when I was 20. And in case you're wondering, I'm 36 today, so it's been 16 years. My family moved, and at the time I was doing software engineering. I had the highest GPA. It's pretty stereotypical for there, but it's as a woman, you are celebrated if you are in certain professions. So engineering, science, lawyer, and all those professions that traditionally male-dominated industries. So I was good at math, and that's why I ended up in software engineering. So I had completed 2 years. My family moved to Canada, and that's when I actually I got into York University in their software engineering program. And I learned that because I was in third year, because all my credits were transferred, I was either one of the few women in a class of 160 or sometimes the only one. And that to me was a bit of a shocker. It was a bit of a shocker, not just that there aren't enough women in engineering, but also because coming from a different country and third world country, to be exact, there were more women in engineering there. We were like 40 to 60% at any given time. And so, I tried, just try to be in different classes. And ultimately, I made the decision to quit or drop out of that because I just thought, okay, first of all, I don't feel like I belong here. Two, it's a new country. There's already so many barriers, just not being able to speak English as fluently as I do today, not being able to know how to communicate effectively. So, however, I moved into communication studies. There were a lot of women in that program, and that's where I found my home. And actually, it was a great decision at the time because all of my journey, my professional career here in Canada, it's all the successes I've had is as a direct result of me being in communications. So. Long story short, I was in Toronto, moved to BC, married, my husband, and we started a family. I live on Vancouver Island. and I was an entrepreneur. I believe I'm just meant to be an entrepreneur. I never found that kind of, not success, but not that contentment when I work for others. I just love taking initiatives, just following through, getting things done. And in the corporate world, it was a lot slower for my liking. So I set up my marketing company and, did that for at least 7 years on Vancouver Island. There just weren't enough marketing jobs anyway. And then I had my daughters, which leads me to this topic of being a parent-preneur, parent entrepreneur. So I had 2 girls. They're now 5 and 7. By the way, we achieved this amazing milestone this year with both the kids going to school, just one drop off, one pickup. And for those of you who are parents, you probably can relate and resonate. That is a huge milestone. So with that said, when my girls were little, I had those feelings of isolation again. And I just felt like, I wanted to do more. I wanted that community. I wanted to connect with more women in technology industry. And there just wasn't an easier way. So I started my company. And you can read up about my company. I'm not going to talk much about that. I really want to share with you today, some of the key lessons I've learned and why I believe, so this is kind of my thesis for today, why I believe that parents are perfect candidates for entrepreneurship. For the longest time, I would hear things like, okay, well, there's the 30 under 30 and 40 under 40. And a lot of times, venture capital is for younger people. But I believe obviously I've been an entrepreneur for over 10 years now. And I find that we are just made for this. Like if we want to pursue our dreams, we can be amazing at entrepreneurship. So I want to share a couple of stories with regards to that. And so the one big lesson I have learned is being a parent entrepreneur. One thing we can teach our kids is how to navigate that fear of failure. But more than that, not just being able to navigate it, but also like how does persistence and progress is more important than worrying about, oh, what if we fail? So obviously as an entrepreneur, we fail every day, we win every day. And instead of focusing on failures, I have learned to just focus on, okay, how can I make this better? What can I learn from my mistakes or my failures to grow? So what we do in our house with our 2 kids and my husband is that at dinner table every day, we go around the table and we talk about, what did we fail at today? What mistakes did we make today? And more importantly, how can we improve? How can we make that better? So that's one. And it's so important because what's amazing is as we started this, every day, or the first few times, what I noticed was my girls would talk about small things, like I got 85% on my math test, according to my 7-year-old. And for me, I was like, wow, she thinks that's failure. That's like nothing. That's a win. So I think just being able to just even hear how they see failure, what they see as mistakes. And then we sort of shift that, right? So it's like 85% is not failure. 85% is a win. Sure, it could have been like 100% would be even better, obviously. But just again, instilling that concept of progress and not perfection. So it's okay to fail. It's okay to make mistakes. She takes pride in her math, which is fantastic. I think, she wants to be an astronaut and we want her to work on her math too. But it's also about celebrate the 85% and learn why you didn't get that 100% and see if you can work towards that. And if that doesn't happen, that's still okay. It's still a win. And, I would ask my 5-year-old who's so little and just ask her, what her failures have been. And initially she would just talk about, okay, I forgot to bring my library book. So to her, that was like a really bad thing. It's not that bad of a thing. So just being able to shift that narrative into, even if, okay, you forgot, what can you do tomorrow? And what I've also noticed over time, now we've been doing it for at least, since the school started in September, we've learned that their narrative has really, really shifted. So what they talk about now as a mistake, like actually yesterday, I asked my 5-year-old, her name is Gia, what did you fail at today, or what mistake did you make? And she said, I didn't make any mistakes today. So it was amazing. I think it's okay, and I think it's great. So I just think going back to we worry so much as fear of failure, and I see the confidence really dip from when they're toddlers to when they're 10 years old, right? And I believe this is one part of it, is how do we navigate failure? How do we let go of that fear of failure, rejection, and really focus on, okay, well, I made a mistake. It's okay to make mistakes, and it's going to happen. So I do think that as an entrepreneur, as a parent entrepreneur, we have the power and influence to be able to change that narrative around failure. And the second thing that I've also learned is I am a huge believer and an advocate for challenging status quo. I try to challenge status quo every single day, any chance I get. And I think as entrepreneurs, we challenge status quo. So as an example, I'm obviously, I'm a working mom. I work in the tech industry, again, traditionally male dominated. I'm a CEO. I've been at it for a while. Recently, I was on a cover of a magazine, which was such a beautiful surprise, where Vancouver Island celebrated 10 top 10 companies. And they chose for me to be on the cover. And even though it sounds kind of, I was kind of low-key embarrassed. I shouldn't be. I should celebrate that. But it's still kind of, anyway. My daughter picked up the magazine and she just, obviously she took lots of pictures with it too. She was like, oh my gosh, and then she looked at me and she said, Mommy, I want to be like you. And anyway, and that was just so nice to hear, because I know how much guilt we can have as parents who are not as available as we would like to be. But it was a great moment. And in their school, every week they have this show and tell. She's 7, and show and tell is you can bring anything to school and talk about it. She chose to bring the magazine, and because she was so proud, she shared with her class. My mom is a CEO. I don't know how many of you are parents here, but you probably see on Facebook where people share, first day of school, and they'll be holding these, chalkboards. She wrote, I want to be a CEO when I grow up, because she looks at me as her role model. So again, I think we need to challenge status quo. We have this opportunity to challenge status quo. And actually, when she was in kindergarten, we asked her what she wanted to be. And she had, in one of the pictures on my one slide deck, it shows that she wants to be a scientist. So even though, it obviously changes from year to year, it's still ambitious. And it's still, as a girl, like I see, you go to even buying their clothes, it just kind of obviously makes me really upset, because the girls, it's the unicorns and the rainbows and the pink, which is okay, but those things are so unrealistic to achieve in life. Like, you can't get a unicorn, right? And so I think we need to really shift the narrative. And we can, especially when we're entrepreneurs, we can challenge our status quo and show them what's possible. So that's the second thing that I believe, having this opportunity has really helped shape our, at least, our culture here. And I believe that that's how we can start to move the needle for women at work. And the last thing that I want to just share in terms of a lesson that I have found to be so profound is that we also do need to change the face of leadership. Women in leadership, and being that, example of, we have a team of 5 people, and I, as a parent, sometimes, I'll get a call from the school. I need to pick up the kids. Being able to show, it's okay to take that time off and not be stressed out. My daughter got sick. I got sick. Took that time, delegate it. So obviously you learn a lot. You need to trust your team, but delegate that. But also show that it's okay to not be at work. And I think, and even as parents, we become so empathetic, so nurturing, so caring. It's just impatient. Somebody had mentioned before, so patient too. And we need to change that face of leadership, Because traditionally, again, it's like, what we typically see of, there's a man CEO in the tech industry. They have either stay-at-home wife or, that extra help, which is really hard to achieve, especially when you come from an immigrant background, especially when you come from, a different culture, especially when you are building, a company in a non-traditional kind of industry. There's so many barriers, but I believe this is where we have the opportunity to change that face of leadership and show empathy, kindness, understanding. And when you become parents, it becomes personal. So that's kind of, I do believe that when you become parents, because you have a lot of those qualities, that is what the future of work needs today. We really need to be able to take care of ourselves, our teams, our kids, and that's how we can really truly grow as a society. And just a quick note on some of the good that I find, and actually there's a lot more good. One is obviously gives me purpose. Because I have 2 daughters, the work that I do today, it is just fueled by having 2 daughters and looking at the society and just thinking we have a lot of work to do to make workplaces better for them than they are for us. Another good thing that I found is that it allows me to be more focused. When you have so many things to balance, obviously I shouldn't say balance, juggle, you really learn where your focus should go, what things are kind of fluff, where you should really spend your time, because I'd rather be spending that time with my kids than to be doing things that don't really bring any value. And then obviously the last part on the good side for me is that I actually started my company because I wanted to create workplaces that are better for the future generation than they are for us today. And then just some challenging parts. I mean, there's obviously a lot of challenges, but I do find that the one big challenge that's a constant in my life, and I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs, is time. We don't have enough time for things that we want to do for us. Paul, thank you so much. I'm not sure if you're still here, but thank you for sharing your story. That you put a focus on your health and wellness, and that's really helped you. And I believe we do need to spend enough time on us. And then not enough time, to be able to do things that my husband gets to do, where, he takes up swimming, he takes him for walks, he does most of the pickups and drop-offs. But that's okay, because they're loved, they're cared for, and we're, again, changing the face of leadership here. And then lastly, not enough time for sometimes work. I was actually saying to my husband 2 days ago, we're in this like growth phase right now. And I am, I wake up at 7, I do my work, obviously spend some time with kids, and then I take a nap because I am so tired. And then I get up and then, have more coffee, and then I work till late. And I was just saying to him, if we didn't have kids, like, it would be a bit easier, but obviously I'm really happy that we do have kids. And I believe you can have it all. And you've probably heard this before, but, just not at once. And that's okay. And focus on progress, not perfection. Thank you so much.
Thank you. A lot of words of wisdom, quotes of wisdom right there. I love the progress, not perfection. Celebrate that 85%, but also learn from it. And I love that you also incorporate your kids in what you do. You teach them, but you also learn from them. I think that's super important for work-life integration, as was stated earlier. And one thing I also really liked was how you said that parents are perfect candidates for entrepreneurship. And I know that even though they are those perfect candidates, they still won't do anything about it. So what do you think are some common, potential limiting beliefs that you think potential parent-preneurs have? And what advice would you give to them to overcome those limiting beliefs?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the biggest thing is, finances could be one, right? When you do, and I'm not going to sugarcoat this, I did not take a salary for 3 years. And this is where I also think, when we think about entrepreneurship, there's so many barriers, whether you're an immigrant, whether language is a barrier, whether, I don't come from a lot of money. So obviously I don't have, the people say typical friends and family round in financial, when you're raising capital. I don't have that, right? So I think the more you, come from underprivileged backgrounds, the more barriers you have. So I'm just definitely going to say that depending on the season of your life, I mean, you need to have at least a little bit of buffer, right? So it may be even, and I can't speak for people who, I was lucky that, you know, it's been, I've seen dark days. I've stayed in $50 Airbnbs in the heart of Vancouver. And you can very well imagine what $50 would give you if you're right by SkyTrain, right? It was super shady, super creepy. I barely slept. Actually stayed the entire night at Tim Hortons. I mean, you know, I've seen a lot of those days. So you need to be ready for it. And which is why I think a lot of people have here shared that you need to love what you do. You know, it can be glamorized. As long as you love what you do, you'll find a way. But I do think that, you know, just being realistic, and maybe this is not what you wanted to hear, but you need to be realistic about your finances and just just know that depending on the type of company you want, like for me, because it's a tech companies can take a long time to give returns. We're now, you know, break even, and that's amazing. Like, I don't even know how that happened, but really, I think just set aside funds for that. Start a side hustle, right? Like, set up a landing page. Just get started. If it's something you truly believe in, I think now is the time. With so much flexibility, and I hope employers give flexibility to people to dedicate some time on themselves too. So I think definitely finances, and then time, right? Like if you're a working parent and you have a job, it can be really hard. But set aside some time, do what you love. I'm not sure how helpful this really was, but I will say that just get started, right? Like, just do something, get out there, talk to people who have done it before.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice, because I think a lot of people will glamorize entrepreneurship and they don't really see, you know, they see the tip of the iceberg and they don't see the 90% that's covered. And so saying things like the finances and all of that, I think, you know, people do have to be realistic, like you said. So I think that's great advice. And we have time for one more question here. So I will go ahead and ask that. So I know parent entrepreneurs, you know, you'll experience a lot of self-doubt, and I'm sure that you had quite a bit of self-doubt throughout your journey. So what did you do to help overcome that and sort of get past that?
Yeah, wow. Okay, I'm laughing because every day, okay, like it's every day. It's even today. I think to navigate the self-doubt, it's there. And I think just even recognizing it will always be there. And if it's not there, either you don't care enough, or you know, you're not gonna grow, like you're not growing enough. So for me, that's how I look at it. Okay, if there's self-doubt, it just means that it's uncomfortable, and it's uncomfortable because it's probably something I haven't done before. But if it's something I haven't done before, then there's an opportunity to learn something new and grow, and you learn every day. And it's interesting because over time, I've seen, like, you know, we have this like milestone. Okay, when we get to the 10K in monthly recurring revenue, you know, as a tech company, like this is going to be great. We got there. And then it's like, that's not enough, right? What's the next thing? Okay, now I need to reach out to these like big companies. We actually just partnered with Microsoft in Atlanta, which is amazing. We're beyond the pilot. We're going to be announcing it soon. You didn't hear it today, just saying. But it's just like, you know, just getting to the next one. It's like, it's so uncomfortable to ask for that contract, to ask for whatever it is that you need. But I just think that self-doubt is there every day, but it also is probably an indication that there's an opportunity to grow. So I just kind of just go back to that. Okay, look at every time I had self-doubt and how much I've accomplished. I've been through so much in my life in general that I can look at any use case or a case study from before and just, I've done it before. This is just uncomfortable. It's a good opportunity to grow, and just kind of go from there.
Yeah, I love that. And Amy in the chat says, yeah, I love that. And Amy in the chat says, get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
And I think that's really, really important. There's no growth in the comfort zone. I really loved what you had said there.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. It was really inspiring. Yeah, no worries. And I will invite all of the other panelists and speakers back for one final hello and then goodbye. I know that we're going to be taking a group shot here as well.
All right, got a fluff.
There we go. Yeah.
There you go. Hey, I just wanted to say one last thing. First of all, this has been amazing, Chiara, introducing you and Manuj tonight as the new community leaders. It's been an honor to see you two step out and get the ball rolling here. So that's been fantastic. And the one thing I wanted to end with here before I let you close the show, Chiara, is This is the first startup story event in the 20 that we've done that we've actually finished on time, which I think is because you're all parents and you understand the value of being on time. So amazing. Thank you for that. It's never happened before and probably will never happen again. So there you go.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Colin. So Paul, I don't know if you're still there. I am going to just go ahead and potentially take a group shot just while we're all here. Okay. I guess I'll just count 3, 2, 1. There we go. Perfect. Well, I want to thank each and every one of you, all the speakers, for your time coming here, sharing your stories. I found it very inspiring. I'm sure people in the audience found it very inspiring as well. And thank you to the audience for also joining us today. So thank you, everyone, and have a great night. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.